federal government unveils activities lined up to commemorate Nigeria's 60th anniversary.
For Nigeria as a country, the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari offers a new beginning.
Governor Yaya Bello calls attention to poor state of federal roads in Kogi State.
We want more attention to be paid to Kogi State because it is the gateway between the north and south. And if our road is cut off, then even FCT is going to suffer.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss prostate cancer challenges and management, plus ICPC and diminishing corruption.
All right, let's do some brain teasers, shall we? What two conditions are rarely talked about, yet they are almost equal in numbers? Well, while you get cracking on it, let me quickly remind you that it's a double-edged Friday's edition. How do I mean? We have two issues that are directly disproportional, but conversely related.
Well, Claire, that's quite a challenge you've thrown out. When this administration set out to fight corruption and destroy all its vestiges, it was because it believed, and much so, that corruption holds back economies and cracking it will also spur economic growth.
Well, Yusuf, without giving much away, you've actually given a clue to my brain teaser. Anyway, back to the issue of corruption.
Yeah.
Empirical evidence from engagements of anti-graft agencies like the EFCC and specifically the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Practices Commission, ICPC, support the notion that corruption have undoubtedly stunted economic growth and undermined accountability and transparency in governance.
And indeed, every sector of the economy has been impacted by corruption and corrupt practices, from physical infrastructure to human development, education and health, and they occur in diverse forms: bribery of government officials, money laundering, illicit financial transfers, embezzlement, tax evasion, and so much more.
So much more indeed. Now, 20 years ago precisely, on June the 13th, the Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Act 2000 was signed into law, thereby enabling the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Practices Commission, ICPC. Now, the Commission's basic mandate include enforcing the laws against corruption, prevention of acts of corruption, and educating the public on risks and consequences of corruption and related offences, with the aim, of course, of achieving deterrence. So, on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall interrogate how ICPC have marched towards with action.
And that's just a part of our double-edged conversation. As Claire indicated earlier, it's time to unravel Claire's brain teaser now. Prostate and breast cancer are the health conditions that are almost at par in terms of morbidity and mortality statistics. Like breast cancer, among women that is, almost every man is prone to prostate cancer infection if he does live long enough. Unlike breast cancer, however, prostate cancer is lost in our everyday conversation.
Well, it's usually frightening when one is diagnosed of any of these C words, and the statistics are very startling. It is the second most diagnosed cancer in men and the 5th most common cancer overall. Now, prostate cancer is said to be on the rise among Nigerian men, and that since the turn of the century. Although early detection is critical to survival, gaps in the health system is impacting on survival rates for patients. Today on Good Morning Nigeria, we shall activate conversation on prostate cancer and men's health. I am Claire Adilabu Abdurrazak, welcoming you to Friday's edition of Good Morning Nigeria, and this is where your weekend starts from.
And indeed, of course, it starts here. I'm Yusuf Narabusman. I join Claire to welcome you to the program that is Good Morning Nigeria is reaching you live on the network service of the NTA. In just a moment, we'll be joined by Abdul Malik Adiu to give us highlights of morning news, and followed by a bit of trending business news in Bayo Ayotobi, as usual. will join us much later for newspaper review. Let's now join Abu Malik in the news studio for the highlights of the morning news. Abu Malik.
Many thanks for joining us, and Claire and Yusuf, quite a brain teaser there. All right. President Muhammadu Buhari has reaffirmed Nigerians' continued support and assistance to the Republic of Guinea-Bissau towards sustaining peace, sustainability and democratic governance, addressing a large gathering of participants who converged on the capital, Bissau, to celebrate the country's 47th independent anniversary. The president emphasized that a peaceful and prosperous Guinea-Bissau is a win for West Africa and the entire continent.
I congratulate you and good people of the Republic of Guinea-Bissau on your Independence Day celebration and express my wishes for greater achievement in the years ahead. It is my sincere prayer that your country will continue on the path of national cohesion, growth, and unity. Permitting me to conclude by expressing my profound gratitude to you, the government and the good people of the Republic of Guinea-Bissau for being a good host to the Nigerians resident here in your country. Colonial boundaries will never break the bond of kinship that binds us.
Now, President Muhammadu Buhari has made a case for world leaders to ensure that their countries not only adopt open government principles but help democracy live up to public expectations so that their citizens can have a voice at and beyond the ballot box. The president stated this in a virtual address to this year's Open Government Partnership Leadership Summit and the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly.
It is clear that governments cannot solve all of the challenges of the pandemic alone. And it is only through open governance and working with citizens that we can succeed. We focus on the task of dealing head-on with this destructive monster, which led to us joining the Open Government Partnership and making reform commitments, such as to establish a public central register of beneficial owners of corporate entities.
Now, President Muhammadu Buhari says there is a compelling need to strengthen international cooperation in the global effort to curtail the menace illicit financial flows, as current international mechanisms are not strong enough to address the menace. Now, the president stated this at the Financial Accountability, Transparency and Integrity panel video conference organized on the sidelines of the ongoing United Nations General Assembly, and the approach to promote equity and help achieve economic growth. The president, represented by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, agreed with the panel on the importance of having a balanced approach that reflects the situation in different regions and priorities of different stakeholders. Now, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo was Thursday briefed by Governor Yaya Bello of fatal accident in Felele Junction in Lokoja, the Kogi state capital, which claimed many lives. Now, the governor also used the opportunity to call government attention to the poor state of federal roads in the state.
He expressed his concern also that moving forward, federal government is going to fund the various contractors to ensure that those road infrastructures are completed. They are doing excellently very well in the road infrastructure across the country, but we want more attention to be paid to Kogi State because it is the gateway between the north and south. And if our road is cut off, then even FCT is going to suffer, for it.
The federal government has unveiled events lined up to commemorate Nigeria's 60th anniversary at a media briefing in Abuja. Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed disclosed that the celebration will last through to 30th of September next year.
The 60th Independence Anniversary celebration will be low-key, as the President has already announced. Of course, this is not unconnected with the COVID-19 global pandemic, which has forced some safety protocols on nations around the world. Therefore, the pomp and pageantry that should have marked the celebration will be largely missing.
At the bilateral dialogue between the federal government and the organized labor to resolve impending nationwide industrial action over electricity tariff and hike in pump price has been adjourned to Monday, the 28th of September 2020. The discussion was reached after several hours of discussion and consultation by both parties on what the next level of action will be. Correspondents report that though it was a closed-door meeting, at the end both parties adjourned.
Those of us that are on this side of the divide, looking at the books, looking at the situation, the economics and the dynamics of the current situation that are propelled to make certain recommendations to government as to how we can have an economy that will be sustainable, an economy that will be able to provide for the good of our people, but also survive the storm that is confronting us.
Fruitful meeting. They are going back to their organs. The government side have given proposals to them on the palliative to cushion the effects of the rise in petroleum products and electricity. We have requested them to shelve the strike. We have appealed to them.
No, we adjourn till Monday by 3 p.m. Okay. Yeah.
The Nigerian Center for Disease Control (NCDC) has announced 125 new cases of COVID-19 in Nigeria. The latest figures brings the total number of confirmed cases to 57,849 infections in the country. A breakdown of the new cases from 13 states of the Federation indicates that Lagos recorded the highest number for the day with 37 new cases, while Plateau State has 18 new cases. Others are the Federal Capital Territory with 17, Ogun 15, Rivers 10, Benue and Kaduna State recorded 7 cases each, while Anambra has 5, Oyo 3, Cross River and Ondo State recorded 2 cases each. Now the day's tally is completed by Edo and Imo State recording 1 case each. Now confirmed cases by state, Lagos has the highest with 19,123, followed by the Federal Capital Territory with 5,615 cases. Now Plateau State comes in third with 3,322 cases. With the latest development, total number of active cases stands at 7,649, while 49,098 cases have been successfully treated and discharged, while 1,102 patients died unfortunately from the virus. And that concludes the morning news. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Claire and Kingsley. Yusuf after the break.
As a strong immune system increases the chances of victims surviving COVID-19, a corruption-free society creates opportunities for citizens to thrive and prosper. Build your immunity. Stop corruption now. Report all acts of corruption to ICPC on this toll-free number 0800 22 55 4272. This message is brought to you by ICPC and NTA.
I'm done. Really? Yes. I'm
There's an easier way to get more data. Get more out of life with the new Airtel data plans. Dial *141# now. Data is life.
Airtel, the smartphone network. Yes, that's the painful effect of what corruption costs you. But what does corruption cost us all? Watch Bad Guys on NTA Network, 6 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. every Wednesday from the Akin Fadeyi Foundation. Bad Guys. Who are the bad guys? Join us.
Instability and uncertainty in global oil prices continues to negatively affect oil-producing countries around the world, including Nigeria. Ronami Agurani has more on business news.
Oil prices fell on Thursday despite a drop in the United States oil inventory last week and a stronger dollar. This decline comes amid concerns that the economic recovery of the world's largest oil consumer is slowing down as they continue to grapple with the coronavirus. Meanwhile, a resurgence of COVID-19 cases in some European countries like Germany, France, and Britain led to renewed travel restrictions in multiple countries, exerting additional pressure on already strained oil prices. By close of markets yesterday, Brent crude futures had fallen to $41.37 per barrel, while West Texas Intermediate crude had fallen $37.28 per barrel. Now let's find out how the Nigerian stock market performed on Thursday, the 24th of September, 2020. With business news, I'm Ronami Egirani.
All right, thank you, Ronami Egirani, for the business package. Don't go away. Newspaper review is coming up next.
And our newspaper reviewer, Bayo Atoyebi, is right here with us. Good morning, Bayo.
Thank you, Yusuf. Good morning. Good morning, Claire.
You did the Friday dance right.
Thank God it's Friday. Good morning, Nigeria.
Good to have you with us, Bayo.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Okay, Yusuf,
Yep.
would like to take off?
Let's get started with the Nation newspaper. The Nation newspaper has the top on page 6, that is, Boko Haram commander surrenders and troops rescue victims. Malami turns down Salami panel's invitation, and the Magu protest absence, and that's on page 5. How new Emir of Zaza will be selected by Rufai. Zulum wins 2019 Zik Prize for leadership. They are both on page 4 and 7 respectively. We also have the Ondo 2020, we have riders, and the riders, one Mimiko under pressure to dump Ajayi ZLP for PDP. And then the second rider is Ikale Group mobilizes support for Ikere Dolu. And we also have INEC to use ZPAD for poll. ZLP chieftain joins APC. And more of these are going to be on page 28. Below it, there is a story still on The Nation, and The Nation newspaper, that is, federal government says why Nigeria will celebrate at 60. That's a big question there. The main story on The Nation newspaper is, in The Nation newspaper, that is stalemate in government, labor talks on petrol power prices. Now, on the right is parties hold on to positions. NLC, TUC, others rally for action, and then court stops strike. And that's it. Finally, down on the page there, we have on the front page, that is, on page 6, that is, it says, Kogi explosion, death toll now on 30, and also injured in Lagos gas explosion. So many of them, that's on page 6 if you really want to get these stories. Clear?
Okay, thank you. Let's take a look at what's happening on the front page of Daily Trust. And the lead story is a message from Labour to FG. You must return to old fuel price electricity tariff. And it comes with 3 riders there. With the poor at heart. Okay, we've got the poor at heart. That's SGF. Now, workers can't be your sacrificial lamb, TUC. Court stops strike by workers. And the picture story, just a little down there. There it is. It's our own President, Muhammadu Buhari, at the unveiling of a road named in his honor by, of course, the people of Guinea-Bissau, during Guinea-Bissau's National Day celebration yesterday. So Guinea-Bissau is, just a few days older than Nigeria. Yeah, anyway, that security is trending just there. Nigerians losing faith in government. That's coming from Bajabi Amila. You want to find out details of that story on page 7. And the other story is trending at the foot of the paper. You can read it up there. But this is very important, and I think Bayo should also take note. 30% of truck drivers fail vision tests, and that's coming from the FRSC. 30% of truck drivers fail vision test, yet they drive. Okay. Let's take you a little below the nameplate. Nigeria at 60, our unity, resilience, worth celebrating. And this is coming from the federal government, and indeed it is worth celebrating. Now, 30 injured, 23 buildings destroyed in Lagos gas explosion that happened yesterday. Unfortunately, quite a number of people, lost their lives. Now, 8 jottle for Emir of Zazao's too. Details of that on page 3. Bayo, which of these stories are your highlights?
Well, let me start by saying that Guinea-Bissau National Day is coming September 23rd before our 1st October. However, Guinea-Bissau is 47 years old. Nigeria is 60. All right? So we still maintain our seniority. Yes. Yes. Yeah. However, barely 24 hours after we were lamenting about petrol tanker explosion that killed 30 persons now, a gas tanker has also exploded at Iju Ishaga in Lagos. And several persons, 30 persons, 23 buildings, 15 vehicles have been destroyed completely. And how did this happen? A tanker was supposed to discharge 30-ton liquefied petroleum gas, but the receiving agent noticed that the valve had been tampered with and he was reluctant in receiving it. While they were disputing on that, the driver was trying to drive away. There was a tire explosion, and before you knew it, there was explosion and fire stretching along the whole of that area. Now, to link it to the question you asked earlier on, if 30% of tanker drivers fail vision tests and they are on the road, who is supposed to stop them from going on the highway? Is this the vehicle inspection officers or officers of the Federal Road Safety Commission? Somebody somewhere is not doing their job
for that anyway.
Somewhere,
but failing the test really is crucial. It's really disturbing.
It means you are not roadworthy.
Sure.
You shouldn't be on the highway.
You shouldn't be.
It means your vision is not 20/20. You can't see properly.
I was watching, one of our sister stations yesterday talk about this issue of reckless driving, especially by, articulated vehicles and all that. And it was amazing to learn that there is no legislation against owners of such, vehicles when they do, when they are involved in such a tragic, fatal accident. So you only go for the driver of the truck. Is that it?
In fact, if you recall, sometime on Good Morning Nigeria here, the issue was raised, and it was pointed out as there should be liability when tanker explodes or the tanker driver runs into persons and kills persons. There must be liability not only for the driver, the tanker owner, and also there should be implications for insurance to cover the liabilities that ensue from such unfortunate mishaps. And that has been raised severally, but I think the authorities need to look into that strictly.
Maybe we need to make more noise about that.
Yes.
And the more noise is going to be such that, in most developed economies and nations, really, there is what is called this kind of a postmortem or an investigation or whatever after
the accident, yes.
So they now ascertain exactly what the causes are, what really are the problems, and who are involved, and a white paper or report should be brought out to the public to know. And those concerned, like road transport workers, road safety, and the rest of them, all those authorities on the road are supposed to know exactly what caused that accident and how such accident can be averted in the future.
While the investigation is going on, that's what we're saying. While that investigation is going on, there is need to also take proactive action.
Yes.
Against, liability action against the owners.
Yes, it is the investigation that will pinpoint who is at fault, and if there is crime, then somebody is liable and should be prosecuted.
Yeah.
The other concern is that Governor Yahya Bello yesterday met with the Vice President. The Vice President also expressed concern that support will be provided for the accident, but he was specific that at Felele, where that accident happened, the road has been badly damaged. And when he visited the Minister of Works, he gave indication that FEMA has been given strict instructions to repair that place. Because Kogi has border with 10 states, and it serves almost like a belt, the link between North and South Nigeria. Yes, and therefore, something has to be done. Yeah. In fact, about 2 weeks ago, the governor himself, while he was going, he saw that there was a gridlock. He had to become a traffic officer to facilitate movement of vehicles and goods and services, because everybody was at a standstill. So something has to be done about that.
It's not just rehabilitating that portion. We hear accidents have been frequent at that Felele junction, the Felele, portion of the road, and then you go. So there should be an enduring, sustaining solution, to that portion of Kogi.
Yeah, he specifically requested for that portion, and also added that the whole highway Okene-Abaji Kaba, and also from Kaba to Ajasepo up to Ilorin, as well as Dekina and Ayangba, all these routes are bad and they require serious attention. We drew attention to it. The other story of concern is the issue of labor strike, and there has been 3 perspectives to raise. There's the National Oil and Gas Suppliers Association, who say that they are prevailing on labor not to embark on the strike, because if they do, it is their business and workers that will suffer. And the association is saying that when fuel price all of a sudden dropped in May, they lost about 320 million. They are members of the association. And if labor insists on going on strike, or if they force government to return to the old price, they will have no choice but to lay off many of their workers. Secondly, there is a National Youth Congress whose leader, Mr. Samuel Solomon Adodo, has also cautioned labor not to pander to align itself with politicians who are using this unfortunate issue of the economic challenges to destabilize government. The National Youth Congress is saying that it is time to rise to do away with the corrupt subsidy regime. However, there is also need to put pressure on government to ensure that refineries are working, and private individuals should be given licenses to establish refineries. Meanwhile, the National Industrial Court, presided over by Justice Ibrahim Galadima, has restrained NLC and TUC from embarking on the 28th of September strike. This was sequel to an ex-party motion brought by an association. The name of the association is Peace and Unity Ambassador Association. And Inspector General of Police, Director General DSS have been specifically instructed to ensure that labor does not disrupt persons who want to go and work.
I think they're still meeting on Monday.
Yes, there's a meeting on Monday, and it is hopeful that maybe some positive development will.
I'm reluctant to bring my. Don't worry, next time I'll bring my yellow card. So when I raise it, you know what that means. But I'm sure you get my signal.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Bayo. Have a wonderful weekend.
You too.
All right. So this is Good Morning Nigeria. Don't go away. Like we said earlier on, we have double-edged edition. It's a double-edged edition. We have 2 issues closely related.
guess what?
What?
I scored a hat trick today.
Cool.
Wow.
And how did you celebrate?
Just do your hands like this.
And hold your nose like this.
Body odor is caused by germs. That's why you need the new improved Dettol Cool Soap, which protects against 99.9% odor-causing germs with an extra burst of menthol freshness. Dettol, be 100% sure.
The chairman, Interministerial Committee for the celebration of Nigeria's 60th independence anniversary and secretary to the government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, invites you to the following events. Thursday, 24th September, World Press Conference venue, Obasanjo Hall, Federal Secretariat, Phase 2, time 11 a.m. Friday, 25th, public lecture, venue, National Mosque Conference Hall, time 10 a.m. Special Jumat prayers, 1 p.m. at the same venue. Sunday, 27th, Interdenominational Church Service, National Christian Center, Abuja, time 3 p.m. Members of the public can join the church service virtually by logging on to the YouTube channel of the OSGF at Official OSGF NG. Monday 28, launch of the National Ethics and Integrity Policy as well as Integrity Award by Mr. President to commemorate the 20th anniversary of ICPC. Venue, State House, Presidential Villa, Abuja, time 10 a.m. Historical Exhibition, National Press Center, Radio House, Abuja, 3 p.m. Thursday, October 1st, Guard of Honor Anniversary Parade, Eagle Square, Abuja, time 10 a.m. Anniversary theme, Together. Please note, these events are strictly by invitation and all COVID-19 protocols will be adhered to. Chairman, Media and Publicity Subcommittee, Announcer.
Sensitivity is a short, sharp pain that people experience when they have something hot or cold getting to the nerve of the tooth. If the sensitivity is left alone, it may get worse. Dentists recommend Sensodyne. It's able to calm the nerve of the tooth. The proof's in the results. It works. Sensitivity is a short, sharp pain that people experience when they have something hot or cold getting to the nerve of the tooth. If the sensitivity is left alone, it may get worse. Dentists recommend Sensodyne. It's able to calm the nerve of the tooth. The proof's in the results. It works.
NTA TV College Jos, an affiliate of Ahmadu Bello University Zaria, is currently admitting students for its ordinary diploma programs in television journalism, television production, and television engineering. Interested candidates are advised to obtain relevant information concerning eligibility at our website at www.ntatvc.edu.ng or marketing department of any NTA station nationwide. For further information, contact Assistant Director, Marketing, NTA TV College Jos on 0803-314-4383 or the Academic Office of the College on 0806-980-9807. Announcer, Registrar.
All right, good morning, Nigeria. It's reaching you live on the network service of the NTA. Now, before we start our conversation on prostate cancer and challenges, let's listen to Victor Azzo's backgrounder.
One of the most common types of cancer in men, prostate cancer, is said to occur in the prostate, a small walnut-shaped gland in men that produces the seminal fluid that nourishes and transports sperm. Medical experts say while some types of prostate cancer grow slowly and may need minimal or even no treatment, other types are aggressive and can spread quickly. There is no known certain cause of prostate cancer, but age, race, family history and obesity are risk factors. To prevent prostate cancer, however, medical experts advise healthy foods over supplements, especially fruits and vegetables, while exercising regularly to maintain a healthy weight. Otherwise, prostate cancer may lead to trouble urinating, decreased force in the stream of urine, blood in semen, discomfort in the pelvic area, bone pain and erectile dysfunction, among others. In all of these, there is a silver lining. Early detection, for instance, while still confined to the prostate gland, offers a better chance of successful treatment of prostate cancer. If already advanced, God help you. Treatment for prostate cancer may involve active surveillance, surgery, radiation therapy, including brachytherapy and external beam radiation therapy, proton therapy, high-intensity focused ultrasound, cryosurgery, hormonal therapy, chemotherapy, or a combination of sorts. Trust medical experts in the studio to come up with other big and terrifying names for the treatment of prostate cancer.
All right, let's up our conversation. Thank you for joining us. If you just tuned in, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria, and today we'll be discussing all about prostate cancer and men's health. So let me quickly introduce our guests here in the studio. Dr. Bello Abubakar Mohammed is Chief Consultant Clinical and Radiation Oncologist, National Hospital Abuja, and also President Chair, Prostate Cancer Guidelines for Sub-Sahara Africa. Dr. Bello, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And we also have in the studio Dr. Jerome Osuide, genitourinary surgeon, Chief Medical Director and CEO, Park House Specialist Hospital Clinic here in Abuja. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Yusuf.
And joining us via Skype from Birnin Kebbi is Dr. Zainab Shinkafi Bagudu, Founder and Chief Executive Officer, Medicare Cancer Foundation. It is a pleasure to welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria, Doctor.
Morning.
Joining us via Skype from Lagos is Dr. Omo Lara Faturegun, Consultant Clinical and Radiation Oncologist, Lagos State University Teaching Hospital, Ikeja, Lagos. Thank you also for joining us on this program this morning.
Thank you very much.
To get started, let's see how we can really do some justice to this issue. Before the program started, the doctor here was saying that this should be another maybe 2 sessions together to get these things done. But all the same, we need to bake for some summary in these things we're going to discuss so that we'll be able to cover large grounds and have this management and things treated. There are various forms of cancers. And a lot of them have to come, maybe most of them come with their names, and so they go. The cancer issue is really a troublesome one, and there are more than 100 types of them. In fact, most cancers are named by the organ or the type of cell in which they stem from. I mean, are we on the same page, Doctor?
We are. We are on the same page, yes.
Can you further explain to us how what really the situation is among these cancers and why they come with their names?
Cancers generally, or prostate cancer?
Generally cancers. You said there are 100 types of them.
Yes. Cancers normally in the body, cell multiplication has genetic coding. They are coding in the DNA, which controls division of cells. And when a cell is dividing, it has to make a copy, a perfect copy of the DNA. Now, errors do occur in this process of multiplication. And the faster the cells in any organ divides, the more likely are these errors. Now, there are also genes that regulate and take care of cells that have not been copied properly, to destroy them and make sure that they don't continue to live. Because cells are created and cells die. Wrongly produced cells die, so they don't produce a wrong image. But this change which occurs is called mutation in the genes. Now, if the mutated gene is not destroyed, then that can now produce or manifest what you may call cancer. So the cell may continue to grow without control, out of control. Whereas there's a gene that is supposed to limit its growth, multiplication, and limit when it dies. If that is not there, then it just grows wild. And that is what you now describe as cancer.
Okay, let's zero in now on our conversation, which on our main focus today, which is, the one that affects the men.
Yes.
And in our conversation, we have said that, usually it's, the 5th overall killer. I mean, cancer killer overall. Yet it's lost in our conversation. But for starters, explain to us what is the prostate? What exactly are the functions?
Well, I brought this along so that our viewers can see. This is like a sagittal view if we were to saw a human being halfway like this, one half this way, the other half.
Can you just raise it a bit so that the camera can catch us you're introducing?
So, I don't know. Do you mind me standing up?
No, just hold it down. Okay. The camera will pick it up.
Okay.
Okay.
All excellent. Right. Now, this is the bladder. Now, the prostate is at the bladder neck.
Okay.
And when a man wants to pass urine, when the bladder contracts, the bladder neck opens up, and there's a sphincter here called the distal sphincter. They are supposed to be, the contraction of the bladder is supposed to control simultaneous opening of the bladder neck and the distal sphincter. This gland here at the bladder neck, the prostate, we don't really know what is its usefulness, even though it produces some secretions and so on. But it's just a small gland with big problem, causing big problem for men. But when you get older, this gland now gets larger. As you can see in this illustration, this is prostate cancer affecting the left lateral lobe and the median lobe. This lobe is not affected, it's normal. The lateral lobes, when we examine patients in clinic, we do a rectal examination. You can access these lateral lobes, you can feel them. But the median lobe, when it's enlarged, you cannot feel it through the rectum. It enlarges and goes into the bladder. And as you can see here, this cancer is causing obstruction. Because of that, the bladder is overworking. And when the bladder is overworking, anything that is overused gets larger. You see the truck pushers, you see the wrestlers, you see the boxers, they develop these muscles. Exactly what happens in the human body. So see the thickness of the bladder and see the muscle fibers of the bladder, which we call trabeculation. When we do an endoscopy, like passing this instrument to examine the inside of the male patient, you see all these signs of overworking. And that is the pressure inside this bladder gets very high. And in any closed system, when you increase the pressure is distributed equally in all directions, looking for escape route. Now, escape route in the man is the ureter. It is the kidneys that now take the punishment because the pressure is transmitted to both kidneys. And that is how patients start to develop kidney damage. It's very quiet and silent, nobody knows. I see presentation of a lot of patients with kidney failure. They're asking for assistance and so on. But prevention, they say, is better than cure. So these bladder outlet obstructions caused by either benign enlargement or malignant prostate should be handled early. That is advice to younger colleagues. If you don't handle it early, the kidney is having damage, and the first time you know that a patient has problem is when the kidney is failing. Then start going for dialysis.
But as you talk, should be handled early. There should be symptoms, I guess, if people should know so that they can now approach their physicians.
Yes.
Or are there no symptoms?
There are, of course.
So that you can
and some of the
action.
symptoms are shared between malignant prostate and benign one. The symptoms include frequency. That is, you are going so frequently, and the wife notices that the husband is waking up about 5 times to go to the washroom. You may have urgency. In other words, you cannot defer. You're going to empty your bladder. It's a command. Once you get the feeling, you must go. And if you don't go, you may wet yourself. Several years ago, under, I think it was Shagari's time, one of his pilots in the crew, presidential fleet, had this problem of overactive bladder. If he just stands up, he just wets himself, the bladder empties completely. And that can be very embarrassing.
But are all overactive bladders sign of prostate cancer, Dr. Bello?
Well, certainly not. Certainly. So there are so many other things. You can have an infection of the bladder. You can have like benign enlargement, which is non-cancerous condition as well, and so many other things. So it is not the only sign, of course, of cancer, prostate cancer. So just to take you back, my boss here,
most importantly,
yeah,
blood in urine,
yes,
hematuria, because I didn't exhaust the symptoms that the patient may have. One of them is to pass blood in urine, hematuria. That's it. And once a patient passes blood in urine, it should be seen immediately. In fact, they have special clinics for them as emergency.
Okay, what's the burden? What's the burden like on us?
So, okay, so we forget about the...
Go ahead.
All right, so...
Lump it.
Indeed. So the symptoms are quite numerous, and, a lot of people, the older you get, the more likely for you to develop prostate cancer. Just like doctor has enumerated that the glands tend to have uncontrolled, development or replication. As they get older, they become bizarre, immortal cells. And as a result, when they grow, like you can see there, they can invade either the prostate, the bladder, or even the rectum. Okay, when it gets out of that capsule, then you begin to have all those symptoms. One of the key things that prostate cancer does is that it has affinity to affect the bones. Okay, so some people don't actually have all those other symptoms, but they come with back pain. Mostly elderly men coming with back pain, the first thing you should start thinking of is primarily prostate cancer until proven otherwise. Okay, so those are some of the things. Your second question was?
Yes, I said.
So the prevalence.
What's the burden
well,
like?
it's
yes.
the number one disease in men, basically, and especially of African descent. 1 in 6 male will develop prostate cancer in their lifetime. In other words, by the time you are 60, chances of developing prostate cancer becomes higher. From age 40, you are expected to be doing DRE, digital rectal examination, and also your PSA. And I think primarily because prostate cancer is a hormonal disease. In other words, the testosterone level actually tend to determine to an extent, the kind of the prevalence or how much of the cancer you will have. That's why black people tend to have more prostate cancer than Caucasians. Okay? So the prevalence is much higher in black people. 1 out of 6, you can imagine if you have a population of, say, Nigeria, and then the population of men is about 50%. So by the time you reach the age of 65, it's likely that you could have some occult form of prostate cancer. In fact, studies have shown that some people have died, and at autopsy, during when they want to interrogate the body, they found that they are harboring also prostate cancer. So there are indolent prostate cancers that you can actually have without actually having symptoms. And that is why screening is very critical. And that is why, we need to institutionalize screening policy in this country so that we'll be able to pick it up. Doctor has mentioned early detection and early treatment can actually save lives.
Okay,
well, Dr. Bello, I really want us to, have a little bit on this issue of symptoms, because that's why it starts. And the management and treatment starts from the symptoms. If you don't know, you don't know. But once you know, maybe you can take steps.
Right.
You mentioned 40 as maybe
40,
the age at which somebody should start watching out for that. Am I correct?
Yes.
40. Now let's get down to Lagos and then get more perspective on this issue. Dr. Omolara Faturegun, can you please shed more light on this issue of symptoms for us? Our viewers really want to know. Some are there silently having one or two or three of these symptoms and may not know exactly what to do. Could you add some more on this, if any, and what would you tell those from 40 upwards with regards watching out for prostate cancer?
Thank you very much. So in trying to actually reduce the burden of prostate cancer, one of the key factors is the ability to pick this disease up very early, right? And most prostate cancer patients, like it has been previously mentioned, they will come in asymptomatically. That means they might not come with symptoms because the region in which prostate cancer develops within the prostate gland is actually different from that which it develops in benign prostatic enlargement. So because it develops in the outer region, some patients might actually not come in with symptoms until you have an advanced disease. And we know that most of our patients who come in advanced stages, their survival is actually reduced. So that brings in the concept of screening. Screening is aimed at picking a disease when it is not even symptomatic. Because when you pick it early, it is still localized within the prostate gland, and you can either go in and take it out as a whole, or you offer radiotherapeutic interventions to these men very early. Then Dr. Bello mentioned the screening age, which starts at 40, because we know that prostate cancer tends to occur in men of African descent much more. It's more aggressive in them. It comes at an earlier age in men of African descent. And these men definitely come to clinics in advanced stages. So the first step is actually picking it up at screening, first of all, because so that you can cover the asymptomatic component of presentation. Then the other component is, of course, those ones that occur with either along with the benign prostatic enlargement. They can occur with that, and they can come with symptoms like we previously mentioned. Frequency, they go to toilet more frequently. They can have pain when they are passing and when they are urinating. You can find blood in their urine, and also they can definitely come with symptoms like having to quickly rush to the toilet, or else they pee on themselves. But most importantly, like Dr. Bello mentioned, our men in this part of the country, in this part of the world, they don't come to the hospital until they have things like back pain. Some of them come when they're already paralyzed. Then we have to offer palliative care. When the cancer has moved to the bones, it's already a stage 4, and that actually reduces survival in this group of men, basically. So those are like the overall symptoms. And I still want to emphasize the point that we need screening. We need to pick these men up asymptomatically, because when you pick them up early, it's as if you have cured them of the cancer. It's still localized within the prostate gland. We can just take it out as in bulk. As compared to when it has moved to other organs in the body, it becomes a challenge of actually cleaning it up in that. That's why we move them to palliative care, basically. Thank you. So that's just my little bit on it.
Fatirego, thank you. We'll still come back to you. Let's go to Birin Kebbi, where Dr. Zainab Shinkafi Bogudu, founder and chief executive officer at Medicaid Cancer Foundation, is joining us. She's also a member of the Union of International Cancer Control Board, active advocate of cancer screening, not just breast cancer. I know you are active, with campaign against breast cancer. Yes, but tell us, in terms of screening, what has been your experience, with compliance, with people, accessing care?
Thank you very much for that. Generally, as we have heard, in low middle income countries, and Nigeria is no different, people tend to seek care late. However, with the improvement in advocacy, with the improvement in enlightenment, and the work that a lot of civil societies across the country are doing, and a lot of coalitions are coming together, we're finding that it is not that bad. It's all about education and bringing up the level of understanding of people. Yes, our level of education and literacy levels is not that high, but you take the effort and time to tell people about it using grassroots communication methods and languages and methods that they understand. What do I mean by this? You might find that majority of Nigerians might not really understand what we're doing here. You go to the radio and you use languages, local languages, and in a way broken down that they will understand. And you have an outreach in the marketplace, in the villages, using the community gatekeepers. Then they come for screening. But if we go to a teaching hospital and we set up a screening service without that backup education and demand creation for that service, then they will not come. We're just wasting our time. But when we back it up with the right education and creating the demand for it, then people come. So we found that it's not limited to breast cancer alone. Even with the men, once you tell them about it, once you educate them, yes, men tend to be more guarded, particularly with breast cancer, with prostate cancer, and they're not as open about it as women with breast cancer. But even with the women, it's quite tasking. But we do have them coming in. And when you have this, they come in, like Dr. Lara has said, they come in with advanced cases, not to come and screen. That is when you will find so many people coming out of the woods, coming out of the villages to come and seek care for stage 4 metastatic prostate cancer.
Well, as you've really rightly mentioned, really, at stage 4, people go and start looking for cure or for trying to get themselves off the hook, I would say. Dr. Jerome, you started this discussion with a very big boat here, and of course, the explanation has been very good enough.
Yes.
It's graphic enough to have seen it very well. Yes. Are there no other? She mentioned some ways of trying to really get across to people that may not know that they have prostate cancer, for them to come over and then catch them young, if possible, if I may use the phrase. What other, strategies are you using as medics in order to, get across to those Africans or Nigerians who have this, or rather who are living with this disease silently, especially when they come to you apart from the symptoms?
Yes, as Dr. Bello mentioned, if we must catch them early, screening when you don't have symptoms is imperative. Because I've seen patients come to the clinic, they say, I just went for a routine checkup, and I see my PSA, he said 50-something or 30-something. Of course, prostate-specific antigen is a marker produced by the cells of the prostate.
Is that a determinant for prostate?
Well, we use it to monitor progress in treatment. However,
is it in detection or treatment?
Well, in detection, somehow, if it's very high, you have to zero in, monitor, observe the patient in early stages. However, we have to quickly mention here that there are other causes of elevated prostate-specific antigen. If you have had urethral procedure, if you have had retention of urine, urethral procedure means like endoscopy. This is cystoscope to examine the bladder. If you have passed those instruments, yeah, this is a cystoscope now. If you have done urethral instrumentation, if you've done a rectal exam, if a patient comes with retention of urine, all those are reasons for the PSA to rise. But even normally in benign prostatic hypertrophy, the PSA increases by about 1.75 nanograms per annum, even normally. Then prostatitis infection in the prostate. I admitted a patient about age 45, about 6 years ago. His PSA was 26 nanograms. And his brother works in the National Hospital. He was the one that ran the test. He was alarmed. So I said, no, wait a minute. Don't let us tell him. We will not tell him. Let us finish treating the prostatitis and the infection. Then we repeat the PSA after 6 weeks. Because once you give somebody a label that you have cancer, his life changes. Yes, life changes.
It changes.
6 weeks after that, when we repeated the PSA, it has crashed to 2.5 nanograms per mil. So if we had told him he had cancer, you see how you would have morally damaged him.
Yes, you know, we've been talking about screening, which as a major challenge to controlling cancer and prostate cancer. Is that the only challenge for the men, Dr. Bello?
Well, if you are able to get hold of prostate cancer, probably you would have saved at least half of the population of men. And that is why it is very critical. Of course, there are other diseases, even the bladder, every organ that you see around that area, you know, men are involved.
But why are men not talking about it? Just like the women, well, you heard Dr.
So let me tell you, the truth of the matter is that every country develop what is called the National Cancer Control Plan. Part of the National Cancer Control Plan is also prevention, you know, awareness, and so on and so forth. Even states do develop national state cancer control plan. I'm happy to note that Dr. Zainab Bagudi Shinkapi, she led the way, and in Kebbi State today they have a state cancer control plan. Now, implementation is very critical because it costs money to educate people, you know, jingles in different languages, going out, you know, door to door, educating people. And the truth of the matter is most people are in denial of cancer. Nobody wants to even hear it. If you tell an average Nigerian, come for screening of cancer, he will say, I reject it. It's not my portion. I don't want to even hear about it. Doctor, are you trying to say that I will have cancer? Until when they develop it, even when they develop, they are still in denial. So education is key. We must be able to reach out to the general population and educate them, including people that are in the offices. You know, you'll be so surprised. You know, people that have gone to school, PhD holders, are still in denial even when they have the diagnosis. And the diagnosis is not only PSA, it's not only DRA. Yeah. No tissue, no cancer is the dictum. So anybody that has an elevated PSA should not panic. He should not panic until proven otherwise. Because if you come to me, you have a elevated PSA, I've done a DRE, and I feel that your prostate is enlarged and so on, I will have to send them to the urologist. They must do a tissue diagnosis. That is when you will say absolutely that someone has cancer. And that is why it is important to start that screening. Because when you do an DRE, and you see that you have an enlarged prostate, even if there is no PSA, because there are some prostate cancers that don't have high level of PSA. Okay, so biopsy is critical to establish it. But all these things must come under the National Cancer Control Plan. We have done one in Nigeria in 2018. Yes, you know, we were here and we discussed about it extensively. But implementation, it will cost about 8.3 billion naira to implement it. And there is no appropriation yet for National Cancer Control Plan anywhere in the country. I don't know about the states. Probably some of the states are trying very hard to see that they can give money to do those things. Because money is very important.
From Dr. Bagudu. Please, can you take Lagos?
Dr. Farigun. Fatiregun, that is, sorry about that. Consultant clinical and radiation oncologist, Lagos State University Teaching Hospital. It's all about education now. Kebbi State is right there doing it, as Dr. Bello mentioned. there should be some kind of screening really all around so that people can, a lot of people could get to know that. And that is stemming from the fact that statistics has it that around 14 Nigerians die of, of this disease every day, and that's really alarming when you look at it. So there should be a stemmed up effort in order to see to it that a lot of Nigerians get to know the importance of having been screened. What's the situation in Lagos?
Okay, so for Lagos State, basically, what we have is more of state government effort to actually have screening programs in the primary healthcare development centers, and also there's a cancer bill that is still in the state, the Lagos State and the Assembly that they're trying to work on in Lagos State. Then with regards to treatment in Lagos State, we have two centers, two radiotherapy centers, one federal and one private. It's still grossly inadequate. I mean, the one in the federal, we benefited from it's a federal institution. That's the NSIA/LUT Radiotherapy Center, which was established last year, as well as the private center that we have over there. But we know that it's still inadequate. In Nigeria, we still need about over 200 radiotherapy machines to be able to cover the population that we have. But now we have across Nigeria, maybe we have like two in Abuja, 3 machines. The coverage is still low. So we can say that, access to radiotherapy, which is the treatment, which is one of the key treatments for prostate cancer, is still low. But we're crawling, but we're gradually moving there. But we still need more efforts, more governmental inputs in this space.
I'm wondering why controlling cancer is a challenge for us. If we're able to deal with HIV when it came ravaging, we're able to deal with Ebola, we're able to deal with even polio, we're able to deal with corona. So why is it difficult for us, even at the national and state, government levels, to control cancer? And Dr. Shinkefi Bagudu, my question is to you. You do have a state cancer control plan. In terms of accessing screening and treatment, how easy is it for patients?
Well, I think Dr. Fatiregu just mentioned that cancer is a very complicated disease, particularly for us here. It's also very expensive and poorly funded. Healthcare generally is poorly funded. Most of our people pay for healthcare, even malaria, out of pocket. The average African earns maybe about $5, and then to cure cancer or to even start to treat a round of chemotherapy for cancer, you're looking at anything from 400,000 naira. So where is the funding for this going to come from? It's going to come from either out of that person's pocket. Very few have insurance cover, and then the others rely on altruistic giving from welfare, social welfare, and then governmental giving. Some states have got some schemes. Some states are in the process of it. And then other states are also looking towards collaboration and so on. Very recently, the federal government has set up the Catastrophic Health Fund. I'm sure we all heard about it in the news. And yesterday there was the webinar in which we were all involved in. Most players in the cancer field were at that event where the Honorable Minister of Health mentioned it, and he committed that before the end of this year, those funds, which is to start with, is not a huge amount. It's just a drop in the ocean for what Nigerians need. But it's a commitment and it's a start. It's 700 million naira, and it's dedicated to indigent cancer patients. And this is a pool fund where we expect others will be able to put in some funds into, including the state governments, including private sector, so that people that have the needs can access it. And it's initially going to cover breast, cervical, and prostate cancer. Later on, we can widen it. Also, the pharmaceuticals, the diagnostic companies, the hospitals that have the radiotherapy are expected to chip in and give their own discounted care in that fund. So to answer your question, it's just very difficult, even in the high-income countries. And then there are so many other pressing priorities and pre-existing conditions. COVID-19 came along and battered everybody's plans. Even when you had a control plan, like you mentioned, we had in Kebbi State, we had a costed cancer control plan that was in the budget, and we were about to start, at least with the screening. Along came COVID-19, along came the flooding, and it's going to be very difficult for us to be able to start anything cancer-related this year. But we're still hopeful. So this is the reality.
Stay with you. I know that in the webinar that, of course, you just talked about, where the Honorable Minister of Health was also part of, Dr. Bello, you were part of that webinar conversation. You, Dr. Bagudu, was strongly recommended by the Minister for a second term as a board member of the UICC. So, what new narrative are you bringing in our conversation, especially with, regards to cancer and maybe prostate cancer, since we're talking about it? How are we, what are the investment plans?
In a way, it has to be the same. I stand as the director on the board representing low middle income country interests, representing an African interest. And my goal and my cry is always about global disparity and trying to bridge that gap that exists in the disparity of outcome, especially the inability of the average African to access care, to be able to access, to have a better outcome, like we have been talking about in cancer, simply because we are Africans, simply because we do not have access to those screenings. The truth of the matter is, even if we were to devote the entire budget of Nigeria to cancer, it's going to be very difficult for us to have the outcomes that we want. Why? Because our entire budget is not up to the recommended 15% that we need to cure these diseases, to cure all the other diseases that exist. So we have to look towards global partnerships. The other countries that have been able to do it, the countries like Rwanda that are always being mentioned, that are on their way to eliminating cervical cancer, that are doing very well. You spoke about HIV a minute ago. It wasn't done single-handedly. It was done with very good global partnerships. So we must have these kind of global partnerships. And that is what the board seat on the Union for International Cancer Control offers me. It offers me an international partnership, a voice on a body like Dr. Bello has, in a way, to be able to speak loudly the African voice and the African cause, so that people can hear and you can bring home that aid that is necessary. Sometimes you need to be able to speak outside for people to know what you're actually going through. Yes, our leaders go to the meetings, but as advocates, we say it in another way because we are actually living with these people and we see what they go through. On an average day, I get about 4 or 5 requests. This is on average on my phone. It's not about, oh, what are the symptoms of cancer at all. I never get that. Oh, I have blood in my stool. What should I do? It's about, I need money. I need 600,000. How can you help me? I need to go for radiotherapy. My child has this cancer. And it's heartbreaking. How many, what can I do? What can the state government do? How many can we cure? So we have to find solutions. The NHIS is doing its best, but it's not enough. There has to be other ways that we have to find very reasonable solutions. And honestly, the government can't do it on its own. That's just the simple truth. So I hope the boards like the UICC will continue to bring in that help that we need.
Dr. Zainab, we really have to congratulate you for coming on board again, but really have to sympathize with you because they say uneasy lies the head that wear the crown. And we hope and pray that we'll get through all this. Dr. Omolara Faturagun, let's talk about the management of cancer now. Already, it's established. A lot of Nigerians have it. A lot of old men in Nigeria have it. And of course, Africans are so much prone to it than the Caucasians. What's the first step in trying to manage cancer?
Okay, thank you. So in trying to manage cancer, one of the main things we do is we try to first of all stage it. So it depends on the stage in which the cancer patient actually presents to us in the clinic. So, we have broadly 4 stages, and we always pray that our patients come in within at least stage 1 to 2, because at that point, the cancer is still localized just within the prostate gland, and it's much more easier to tackle it at that point than that early treatment and prompt treatment. It's easier for us to tackle it at that point, because when you take out the whole cancer in bulk, it's as if you've cured this patient. So the other stage is when the stage has moved, when the cancer has moved, not just within that's gone out of the prostate gland, and it's now in the lymphatics around there. So that is locally advanced, basically. For the 4th stage, that is the metastatic disease, where we have most of our men coming in. It has spread to the bones, it has spread to other organs like the liver or the lungs. So it depends on this stage. When it now comes to treatment modalities for prostate cancer, it has actually been illustrated in the first short piece that was played before we started. You either offer surgery or you offer radical radiotherapy. Surgical in the sense that you can take a biopsy, it's the urologist who takes the biopsy, in order to confirm diagnosis. And surgery, when the disease is still localized, a surgeon can go in there and do a radical prostatectomy by removing the whole gland. Surgery also, when we're trying to offer what we call hormonal treatment, that's the androgen deprivation therapy, whereby the surgeon can go in and remove the testicles as a form of treatment, because we know that the testosterone is majorly produced in the testicles. So what you want to do is you want to starve the cancer to death by removing what it actually feeds on. Then you give some tablets to tackle the testosterone that is produced, in other parts of the body, basically. Then the other option, some men will say, I don't want surgery. Don't touch my prostate gland, don't remove my testicles. There are injections that we can give. We leave your testicles in there, but we give injections that can help us shut down the production of testosterone. But of course, it's a more expensive route in this sense. The other modality would now be radiotherapy. We can leave the prostate gland where it is, even if it is early disease, and we can radiate it. We can plan this patient on radiotherapy and treat the gland with radiotherapy. Also, when patients come in with metastatic disease, we can also offer radiotherapy to the spine in order to relieve pain and to prevent the bones from collapsing and the man losing the functioning of his limbs. So basically, we have surgery, radiotherapy, and we can also offer some hormonal treatments in managing prostate cancer.
Very good. Thank you. You've enumerated quite a number of services available, but I'm wondering, gentlemen here in the studio, are these services, are they available? That's one. And secondly, Dr. Osudi, we know that in medicine, there are advanced treatments, easier, much easier, simpler, and faster. We now see gene therapies these days and all that. Are those kind of management accessible to us? When I say us, to Africans, to Nigerians?
First of all, let me say, speaking as a urologist, I wouldn't rush to the angle of the oncologist. Because many years ago, I took one of the high traditional rulers to UK, and the oncologist was going to rush to radiotherapy, and I refused. The gold standard for the management of cancer of the prostate is total androgen blockade. In other words, you block the testosterone. Now, hormonal therapy, but you have testicular testosterone, and there is also extra testicular testosterone.
Oh.
Now, if you have Zoladex, the injection Zoladex blocks testicular testosterone, which is 70% of the testosterone in the body. The 30% testosterone, which is not produced in the testes, is blocked by Casodex. When you combine the two, you now have what you call total androgen blockade, which is pharmacological castration. You don't need to, I can't remember when I last did a orchidectomy, removing somebody's testes. No.
What's the
Over
cost
20.
implication of this you're talking about, the pharmacological?
Yes,
you know?
it is expensive, but that is the gold standard. And you...
Now, compared to the real surgery now, financially.
Well, the other thing I should tell you is that it's not every patient that has cancer of the prostate that needs surgery.
Okay.
If there's no obstruction, if there's no obstruction, you may not need surgery, except if you are going to
Obstruction
do...
of
bladder outlet
the bladder
obstruction,
outlet.
yes.
Okay.
Now, it is the Americans that popularized radical prostatectomy, but it came with a lot of complications. Because in doing radical prostatectomy, even now that they are not now doing, what do you call it, robotic prostatectomy, you destroy a lot of nerves in the pelvic floor. So the patient ends up having fecal incontinence and urinary incontinence, permanent erectile dysfunction. His penis will never rise again. The cost is quite, in terms of quality of life, is quite heavy on the patient.
So, Dr. Bello?
So the patient will have to be on Pampers for the rest of his life.
That is
So,
if
yes,
the
but
surgery...
if the patient can afford it, hormonal therapy is the gold standard. And we treated a patient with cancer of the prostate for 12 years on hormonal therapy. And he died at the age of 96, not from prostate cancer.
Okay, Dr. Yes, what's
okay, so, you know, there's always this understanding or misunderstanding between the urologist and the oncologist.
Yes.
But it shouldn't happen, because that's why we have guidelines. And I happen to be the chair of the guideline, you know, NCCN guideline, harmonized guideline for sub-Saharan Africa. And when we were developing that guideline, we had urologists there, you have radiologists, and so on and so forth, before we were able to come with it. There is no doubt, yes, urologists, oncologists are in agreement that hormonal therapy, hormonal manipulation is one of the key things. But because 86% of our patients present late, stage 3 and 4, metastatic diseases, at that point, hormonal manipulation alone is not the gold standard. At that point, you would need to do other form of treatment, including the hormonal therapies. Of course, like my boss here has mentioned, you know, Zoladex and so on. We even have newer ones like the Garalex, where it's central acting and so on and so forth, and they are also available in the country. Bottom line is we must develop multidisciplinary teams. Nobody should be allowed to treat prostate cancer alone in this country. The urologist should work in tandem with the oncologist and vice versa. We even have nuclear medicine treatment of prostate cancer these days, where, you know, when it is so advanced, you have some radiopharmaceuticals that can be injected that do fantastic things, the things you are mentioning.
Yes.
You know, it's not yet here. But if it is in South Africa, we should be able to bring it in Nigeria.
What about vaccine? We hear there's a vaccine for cervical cancer.
Yeah,
So
well,
why can't
because prostate cancer, it has not been established that there is an infection that is causing it. It has not been established, okay?
Okay.
Studies are ongoing because they are still thinking that probably the human papilloma virus may have a place. But these are studies. So because you don't have any infection, you are not thinking of vaccine. Most of the vaccines are targeted towards viruses, But coming back to the main thing, which is the management, what we have and what we don't have. It is critical that we develop this country. COVID has shown that you can't be running away from your own country to go and do treatment elsewhere. During COVID, there was lockdown, the whole world. Nobody was going anywhere, and we have nothing here.
So in the
we
video,
couldn't even afford...
Dr. Bello, what can we do so that we have a conclusion?
So what we can do is government, first and foremost, the collaboration that Dr. Zainab Bagudu Shinkafi is talking about. We must support our own. If she wants to go back to that board, because when she was on the board, that is when she was able to lobby the legislators and were able to get this catastrophic health fund. She started these things, and we all followed her and supported her. So it is important and critical that we must support our own. This country, people go on their own to be on continental bodies and international bodies. When I contested for the presidency of IOTIC, I didn't have any government support. I had to do it on my own, and the support of people like Zainab Bagudu Shinkafi, because she was in UICC and her voice was very critical. So we must be able to support. It is those people that will be able to bring the treatment options that we are talking of. We talked of radiation therapy. We need 200 machines. We have just 5. Some countries, what do? They don't even buy. They go and do higher purchase. And this is the way to go. Government can't do it alone. And we must unbundle our bureaucracy so that we will allow private people to come and participate like Doctor is doing.
All right, Dr. Bello, honestly, I wish we could go on and on, but unfortunately, as we indicated earlier, we have another topic that we must deal with. Yes, just in 60 seconds.
Talking about vaccines, I'd like to inform us that there is a vaccine that was developed in London University. I happen to have supervised about 5 patients that were on that vaccine, which was doing very well. I think the vaccine has been bought over by a company now to market it, but
it's a treatment vaccine. Actually, it's not a preventive vaccine. Cephalosporin T. Yes. So it's available, but that is for treatment, not for prevention.
Not for prevention.
And for the hormonal therapy, I did mention that for early cancers, not for advanced cancers.
Absolutely.
And the advantage of hormonal therapy for prostate cancer is that it deals with the primary site in the prostate, and it also follows up the metastasis.
All right, Dr. Sude,
so that's a great advantage.
We have to stop at this point. I know, like you said the other time, we cannot exhaust this issue of health, honestly. So I'd like to appreciate both of you. Dr. Jerome Osude, genitourinary surgeon and Chief Medical Director and CEO, Park House Specialist Hospital Clinic here in Abuja. Thank you very much. And Dr. Bello Abubakar Mohammed, Chief Consultant, Clinical and Radiation Oncologist, National Hospital Abuja, and of course, President Chair, Prostate Cancer Guidelines for Sub-Saharan Africa. Thank you. Let me also appreciate Dr. Omolara Fatiregun, Consultant, Clinical and Radiation Oncologist, Lagos State University Teaching Hospital, Ikeja. Thank you very much for joining us. And Dr. Zainab Shinkafi Bagudu, Founder and Chief Executive Officer, Medicaid Cancer Foundation. And we do wish you luck in your second bid as a member of the UICC board. All right, this is Good Morning Nigeria. We earlier told you that Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission will, on Thursday, celebrated its 20th anniversary with a second national summit on diminishing corruption in the public sector. Join us again presently as we are joined by Professor Bolaji Owasonye, Chairman of the ICPC, in just a moment. Don't go away.
A new edition of TV Guide is out. featuring great personalities from all walks of life. Expository interview with a young TV presenter who shows passion on what she does, Morayo Afolabi Brown of TVC. Pick a copy of this compendium of mind-blowing stories and get abreast with issues as regards media convergence, leadership, health, star profiles, star programs, fashion, sports, human angle stories, and lots more. Meet some media professionals within our space who have paid their dues in no small ways. TV Guide, very incisive, very educative and compelling. Grab a copy at the vendor near you or NTA stations nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
Afro Culture presents First Nigerian Entertainment and Economic Roundtable, Lagos 2020.
Theme: positioning the entertainment and creative industry to lead private sector role in supporting federal and state governments' efforts at achieving urgent economic diversification.
The roundtable is supported by Federal Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Federal Ministry of Information and Culture, the Nigerian Television Authority, and Lagos State Government.
For sponsorship and inquiries, call 0908-501-0000.
Nigerian Entertainment and Economic Roundtable.
Mainstreaming the entertainment and creative industry into the nation's economy.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you from Africa's largest television network, the Nigerian Television Authority. And we have, in the second segment of this discussion, ICPC, and of course, it's 20 years of existence. You're welcome to the studio, sir.
Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you. Let's get started. 20 years ago, you came into being, and of course, you were supposed to have been treating or fighting corruption as much as you can. But 15 years down the line, we found out that when President Buhari came on board, he had to really make fighting corruption one of his greatest agenda, or the biggest thing he really wants to do. We're not saying that 15 years you haven't done so much, but it seems that is much more to be done. How would you react to this?
Well, thank you very much. I think the fight against corruption had been consistent across the 20 years with different indicators and perhaps different levels of impact depending on the level of political will. Obviously, because President Buhari had made fighting corruption one of his three cardinal programs, this is much more reported and there's a lot more focus on it. But it would be unfair to say that the previous governments did not do anything at all. First of all, the ICPC was started under the watch of President Obasanjo. When he came in, it was clear that corruption had badly afflicted and affected Nigeria. And he came in 1999. The ICPC Act was passed in year 2000. That's 1 year after. That's a very strong signal that he needed to intervene in this area, and he did so by the establishment of ICPC. And to the extent that the ICPC had continued to thrive under the governments in between, that of President Yaradua and then that of President Jonathan up to President Buhari. So I think that we have different levels of success and impact, but it's not been that everything had been quiet in 15 years. I would not say so, but definitely there has been a peak under President Buhari because of his political will and the level of attention that he decided to give to fighting corruption.
Peak, that's the word really. That's very important. Peak, how do you mean peak, and what's the peak? How strong has it been this time around the past 5 years?
I think there's a higher level of consciousness. The media and the public will focus on what the government says it wants to do. So if you have a change of government today and the government says, I want to focus on prostate cancer, you will learn so much within 1 year, 2 years of whatever it is, and all of the weaknesses and the opportunities and so on. So President Buhari came with a focus to fight corruption. So there's a lot more attention and focus upon it. There's a high level of political will to fight corruption. And of course, there's high reportage. I mean, I don't think there's any day that goes by without the media reporting one issue about corruption or the other.
Okay,
so
in your, sorry to interject, in your 20 years, you have your core mandates. of course, ensuring
enforcement, prevention,
yes,
and public
exactly.
education.
Let's take each one of them and then do an evaluation.
Okay.
And looking at 20 years ago and now, what are the milestones?
Okay, great.
Yes.
Okay, in 20 years, first of all, in 20 years, the Commission has received, for example, under its enforcement mandate, over 20,000 petitions, over 20,000, out of which it has successfully, some petitions would not be relevant and all that, taken through about 5,000 of that, and prosecuted over 1,000 of that. Okay, so it's not every petition that you find valuable or useful or that discloses an offense. Then in the area of prevention, which is one of the key mandates.
Before you go to prevention, in enforcing, what have been your experience in enforcing, especially where it affects certain personalities and all that? Share your experiences with us.
The truth is that enforcement measures are driven by legal processes, and it's not a dash; it's a marathon. There's a process by which you go to court. You can predict when you get to court. You can not hardly predict when you get out of it. It is only under President Buhari that we're now trying to reevaluate the time that it takes for a case, a criminal case, for example, to start and to finish. And you recall that even very recently, the president advocated time-binding the criminal justice process, especially corruption cases. So no country should leave things to run. So the typical case, some of the cases we're dealing with were filed during the time of President Obasanjo, shortly after the ICPC was established. So these are factors. And of course, the Constitution says people are presumed innocent until proven guilty. So you have to give every opportunity, okay? And every opportunity means every opportunity for people to vindicate themselves if they have defense. Now, this constitutional opportunity is sometimes abused because people have nothing to say but dance around the issues, but they are allowed, nevertheless. So when you say what's been our experience with enforcement, this is the main issue. This is the main issue, the time that it takes to conclude cases. Now, the other part of it, I've spoken about when you get into court. Even the investigation itself sometimes takes time. So if somebody accuses anyone of, abusing their powers, you need to investigate thoroughly, because the quality of what you take to court is what determines the success or failure or otherwise of the outcome.
Where does your mandate, because sometimes a lot of people have talked about the overlap in functions, and especially with anti-graft agencies. Where does the mandate overlap with those of the other anti-graft agencies?
Okay, so
and most especially about enforcement. Before
the overlap is actually inevitable. It's inevitable. It is the result of the way that laws are drafted, not just in Nigeria, in many common law countries. So what it says is this: our law overlaps with that of EFCC, the police, okay, and sometimes with other anti-graft agencies like even the CCB, the Code of Conduct Bureau. And what happens is this: when the legislature makes laws, they try and leave a window to say, if you find wrongdoing, you've investigated a matter and you find wrongdoing, and the offense committed does not fall on all squares under your own statute, you don't have to abandon it. You spend time and money, you can prosecute that case under any other law, okay? So we can charge cases to court even using the penal code or the criminal code, all right? And the advantage of that is that those who have done wrong are not allowed to get away because, ICPC has no mandate here. But there are situations in which it's clear that this doesn't fall under your mandate. Then you pass it on very early to another agency. So we can prosecute using the EFCC Act. They prosecute using our statute. We can prosecute using other statutes as well. And it is not an error. However, what most countries try to do is to coordinate. So you can say that when it is strictly money laundering, EFCC does it. So when we get strictly money laundering cases, we just pass it to EFCC.
Okay, so
when
there's effective collaboration.
There is indeed.
You share that?
Oh yes, definitely. So when it is purely corruption, abuse of office, they send it to us. A lot of this goes on, but somehow there is this perception that there is completely no handshake. It's not correct. There is very strong handshake.
Yeah, truly speaking, we can appreciate the fact that, your job hinges around, or rather hinges so much on prosecution, or rather investigation, I would say. An investigation takes a longer time, and the prosecution too follows. But sometimes these cases get frustrated along the line and takes so much time in order to get them really out of the courts and the rest of them. How satisfied are you with the judicial system as regards prosecution in this country?
I think that the judiciary is not the only institution of focus when it comes to criminal justice administration. There are many levels. And I said earlier on that depending on the quality of what you take, that's what will be adjudicated. That's number one. Number two is that if the Constitution gives a presumption of innocence, you have to be seen, at least, to give the opportunity for that person to prove that innocence. Now, the perception is how much time is adequate for me to allow you to prove you're innocent. 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. Now, opinion differs in this, but there's no doubt that we're in agreement that delay defeats justice. Delay definitely defeats justice, whether civil or criminal. So that's why the Administration of Criminal Justice Act came up to try and introduce some measures to reduce the time that it takes to go in there. Now, because the judiciary is the end point of the entire transaction, there's a lot more. People hardly look at what happens when you start investigation, what you did, the quality of it and all that. It's when you land in court and the person is arraigned, everybody focuses on that. So if the cases, if it ends up in a not guilty verdict, the implication is to suggest that, the public will feel, they said this man was living in this place, he owned this big house, how did he get it? So you are already judged by perception. And quite a number of times, those perceptions have no foundation. But that's the way the system is, regrettably. So there is a lot that goes into the process towards criminal justice administration. And the judiciary is definitely a very important and strong part of it, but it is not the only part of it.
In the fight against corruption, the issues of transparency and accountability have been very, very critical. How does the ICPC deal with that, especially with government expenditures?
So we try to use our prevention measure, because they say prevention is better than cure. I can tell you, we were talking about investigation and the quality of what goes to court. Investigation is very expensive and time-consuming. If somebody steals a huge chunk of money, say somebody steals like $1 billion, and it's not impossible, we've seen situations like that, he has more money to fight the state than the state has to prosecute him. Okay? He will take advantage of every opportunity within the system. So we've tried at ICPC to leverage on technology, and this will be part of the conversations we will have on Monday when we mark our 20th anniversary with the second summit on diminishing corruption. We need to look at what can you do to make sure transparency and accountability, it doesn't happen. So, for example, government has introduced the Open Treasury Portal. It's open, okay? Any payment above 5 million, any Nigerian from anywhere in the world, even non-Nigerians can log in and see. And if, for example, from NTA, the DG of NTA is not sure of what is going on, he can log into Open Treasury Portal and he sees some payments. He says, I don't know about these payments. He can begin to ask questions. So the first thing is to unpack the opacity of the process, okay, by creating more opportunities for oversight, by diminishing human intervention, by leveraging on technology, and constant review and oversight. So one of the things that ICPC does, we review that open portal very intensely. And when we see payments and movement of funds that require explanation, if you talk to agencies, they will tell you that we are always asking, you have to explain this. And if there's no explanations, then something will follow.
There
are other things I would like to say. Yes. We also do what we call the system study review. One of our key mandates is to look at the systems and processes of agencies and institutions to see if they are corruption prone. If you are an accident waiting to happen. If you are in a vehicle and the driver is speeding and the guy has been drinking something, you know that's an accident waiting to happen. But you can prevent that accident from happening by saying you have to stop here. Or somebody forces the driver to stop. The system study review gives indications of corruption risk. And then ICPC can say, we saw this. You have to correct it. We'll give you a chance to explain why it is the way it is. And if you have an explanation, we have to tell you to stop it. If you don't, we can actually prosecute you. The third thing is we do what is called...
How many of such institutions have you been able to...
We've done system study review, for example, around 47, intense, full system study review. But of personnel and use of funds, we've done over 500. Over 500, over time. So we look at the way money moves, who it goes to. The explanation is not clear. And many times our hunch is right. So we recover the funds. The third thing we do is to enhance transparency and accountability is what we call an ethics and integrity compliance scorecard. So we will, if somebody is going to fail in their mandate, you can tell from their governance structure, their financial management systems, the way they are managed, their procurement processes, and the way they deal with the public. If, for example, NTA, anything you want to do with the public, you say we have to pay in cash. That's a risk. That's a signal. Okay. And then we pay in cash, and then you say we should come back for receipts. That's a stronger indicator. So when you go into a system, when you look at their culture and their practices, you can tell that they are corruption prone or not corruption prone. So we administer this scorecard, okay, and we've done over, this year we administered 350. We got about 220 responses. We're going to be publishing, everything is going to be released on Monday by the grace of God. And we'll send copies to you. Now, the essence of that is to say, if you look closely at this institution, there are indications of corruption risk. It gives the leaders, because sometimes leaders don't know exactly what is going on. When they say, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, well done, sir, DG, welcome, sir, you just go to your office. And then they insulate you with this respect. You really don't know what is going on. The reality is far from you. When we unpack this, we can tell you this is your rating. This is where you are. You are an accident waiting to happen. So by doing that, we're able to force leaders and management to change their style, and then we come back. And it works. It works. The third leg of what we do, of course, is public enlightenment. The public's understanding of corruption, okay? I don't want to say it's dysfunctional, but almost there is no unanimity. And why I say so is that if you put up rape or sexual harassment on a program, the condemnation will be total and uniform from across the country. You will not get one person support. If it is corruption, say, hey, why is it only this person? Is it the only person? They are not saying he did not do what you are saying he did. They are saying, well, why is it the person? Can we look at what he did rather than the person? Oh, is it only this ministry? Why are we the ones that you are coming to? Why are you not going to the other ministry? It begs the question. It begs the question. So you need to communicate the ill effects of corruption in a way that people understand that this is about my reality.
Okay. I was about to ask you this, but you've started answering the question. But all the same, let's get going again. This bothers so much on attitude. The Nigerian attitude towards corruption is what you've started talking about, and of course, that's one of the greatest, undoings in this country. How have you or your commission gone in trying to ensure that there's this attitudinal change? This could be a function of, the institution, but all the same, you too should have been doing something in order to see to it that this attitude changes, given the fact that the president hammers so much on it.
You are so spot on. Just some months ago, well, before I assumed office, in fairness, the ICPC had started the process of coming up with an ethics and integrity policy. It's very easy for people to accuse government of being responsible for all their ills, including if somebody has prostate cancer. You accuse government that government is responsible for it. But government is not responsible for it. But government has a duty.
In a way, but
government has a duty to create a platform for you to get treated and to get better. Exactly. Okay. So there is a symbiotic relationship that this calls for. Now, if there is no ethical reorientation of our attitude, our perception, I'll just give an example now. If somebody does wrong, instead of us jointly condemning that wrong, when you begin to disaggregate the other environmental factors, where he comes from, is he the only one? You are diminishing the impact and the effect. So we sponsored, in collaboration with the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation and National Orientation Agency, we put forward the National Ethics and Integrity Policy. It was passed by FEC, approved by FEC on the 19th of August. All things being equal, the president is launching it on Monday. The Ethics and Integrity Policy begins to tell the public we have a collective responsibility. It's interesting to know that the Constitution actually gives duties to citizens as well. But citizens, we all focus a bit more, and rightly so. I'm not saying it's not important. Rightly so, we focus a bit more on the duty of government. We always say government has to do this for us, government has to do that for us, government has to do virtually everything for us. But citizens also have duty. We need to make governance easy. Say, for example, if you choose to give palliatives, the NTA says they will give palliatives, and they have enough for everybody. But people need to be organized in order to get it, to form a queue. And they refuse to form a queue. In Nigeria, a queue can be round. And then the thing gets rowdy. Some people won't get. Yeah. Now, would you accuse government of that?
You know, we need to fast forward our conversation. And there's no doubt that the fight against corruption has really gained traction, under this administration. And we see evidence, especially from, especially in the area of money laundering and all that. But where it comes to fighting corruption, corrupt leaders, involving, of course, your commission and all that, a lot of people still believe that the ICPC is a sleeping commission. If you place it against our ranking in the anti-corruption index.
Okay,
so how do you respond to that?
That is not correct. Anyway, you see, that's what I've tried to establish. First, we have a tripartite mandate: enforcement, prevention, public enlightenment. That's number one. Number two, I think there's a high expectation from the media and the public that once you start a process, you've got to put it in the public domain. It, most of the time, undermines the outcome. If we are investigating you...
Not me.
Okay. If we're investigating anybody, and the first thing you do is to say, you are investigating this person. You've not finished. You've just started. You will not find some of the things that you need to conclude the process. That's number three. When a government like this government says, I'm going to fight corruption, as I've just said, corruption will be more reported by the media. Now, some people will interpret that to mean that, there's more corruption. Simply because every day when they open the newspapers, they read something about corruption. But it is because the government is tolerating the openness and allowing the information to flow. Some other government will repress it. And then you read the conclusion that, corruption is escalated. So basically, our summit is to have a conversation, which is on 28th of September, on Monday, is to have a conversation about what have we done in diminishing corruption in the public sector in particular, because the public sector drives what the rest of the society...
That's great, Professor Bolaji. We thank you so much and we congratulate you for having attained 20 years and wish you much more in the years to come.
Thank you.
And we thank you so much, and we really would want to say that next time when we call on you, we shall come and then we talk much more.
It will be my pleasure. Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you so much. Now, let's now join our sports desk for stories trending in the world of sports.
Champions League title holders Bayern Munich on Thursday night added to their rich trophy cabinet, peeping current Europa League champions Sevilla 2-1 after extra time to win their second UEFA Super Cup title in history. Bayern, who won their first UEFA Cup in 2013, lifted their second in style with a hard-fought win against gallant Sevilla side that battled throughout 120 minutes at the Pukas Arena in Budapest, Hungary. And Lucas Ocampos beat Manuel Neuer from Sport in the 13th minute for Sevilla to make a 1-0 lead. While Leon Goretzka equalized for Bayern in the 34th minute, making no mistake from Lewandowski's pass inside the area, and the scoreline remained 1-1 at half-time. And after full 90 minutes of the game, during the extra time, Javier Martinez, who replaced Lucas Hernandez in the 99th minute, nodded home the winner for Bayern Munich in the 104th minute, making the scoreline 2-1. The Bayern Munich side started their 2020-21 season on a title-winning note, following the Bavarians' 2019-2020 treble, including winning their 30th Bundesliga, 20th German Cup, and 6th Champions League title. While in tennis, Andre Murray will meet fellow three-time Grand Slam champion Stan Wawrinka in the French Open first round, the man who the Briton played in his last match on the Paris clay in 2017. While in the WTA, British women's number 1, Johanna Konta, seeded 9th, has been handed an eye-catching opener against American teenager Coco Gauff.
That was Good Morning Nigeria for you today. Join us again on Monday for another edition. I am Yusuf Madabuso.
And I'm Claire Adelabo Abdulrazak. Thank you very much. And don't forget to join us, connect with the NDA, stand against rape and rapists. From all of us here, you have a great weekend.